Considering how conservatives over in the United States and President Trump himself always complain about how there is no free speech in Europe and how there is no free speech in the UK, it seems like these people have actually shown how much of a hypocrite they actually are. How much hypocrisy can actually exist within one group. It's unbelievable. JD Vance himself, the vice president himself, came to a conference complaining about how Europe is restricting free speech. Charlie Kirk himself, 3 months ago, came to GB News talking about how there is no free speech in the UK. Over there, within the conservative circle, they all believe there is no free speech in Europe. And yet, the president is doing this and they don't condemn it. But before jumping into today's video, if you're new around to this channel and you want to see more content like this, subscribe, and also it will be massively appreciated if you drop a like on the video. Let's get right into this.
People around
You
this
don't
country
have a
don't like
right to work for whoever you want to. You have a right to say what you want,
But you're
not to
forgetting
be
about the
employed by
threats,
anyone.
which
All right.
Abby's going to play.
If you think
hey,
that's
the
exactly
question,
what it
here's
was.
the reason I want to play this, okay? Because I think we're willfully ignoring the threat, which was explicit. It wasn't implicit, it was explicit. Listen to what he actually said.
They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. And we can get into some ways that we've been trying to reinvigorate the public interest and some changes that we've seen. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
It'd be a shame.
Excuse me, public interest. What was it that he said that contradicted the safety of the public? What was it that wasn't in the public's interest? You mean the president's interest? You mean Trump's interest? That's what you mean. Nothing was said that literally jeopardizes public interest or contrary to public interest. None at all. What he meant to say was Trump's interest. Obviously, everyone understands that.
Shame what happens to your nice network. It'd be a shame what happens to your nice show. That's a threat.
Well, and not only that, but then Donald Trump took to Truth Social and then said further, that leaves Jimmy and Seth, two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also terrible. Do it, NBC. I mean,
it will never end. But, just worth noting, just a couple years ago, back in 2019, Brandon Carr, he tweeted this on a different topic. Should the government censor speech it doesn't like? Of course not. The FCC does not have a roving mandate to police speech in the name of the public interest. And yet, he is doing exactly that today. Where does this end? Where does this end in your mind? You are fully comfortable with the government saying, if you don't do this, if you don't get this person off the air who said something that was wrong or that you did not like, we are going to drop the hammer on you.
No,
You're good with that?
No, I didn't like it when the Biden administration worked with big tech during
So
COVID
then why
and
are
said,
you defending it?
I'm not defending this. I'm saying right now, if ABC comes out and says we were forced to do this, we don't want to do this, I think this is part of a larger business decision on their part that goes back to what Scott said before about their feelings.
ABC.
This is a
the
failing industry in terms of late night television.
I get it. Listen,
this is their excuse. This
linear
is their
television,
reason.
failing industry. The whole world understands that. But Nexstar has a very clear financial interest in not getting on the wrong side of that guy whose clip we just played. Right? You don't see the problem with that?
And I think right now they're looking at the larger business circumstances, and they're hoping that people like you and others would point that direction instead of focusing
You
on
at least see an ethical.
How can you sit there and say this isn't political weaponization from the president? How can you actually think this is just a business decision? Why did it come right after that speech that he made about the president and then the president responding to him? It's just a coincidence that everything just seemed to work at the same time. The time that they decided to let him go was also the time that the president called him out. That was also the time that the president felt really bad about what he said about him. It's just a coincidence. Everything fell to place. It's just a coincidence. How you can deny this genuinely, and this is right here the problem with the rhetoric going worse and worse and worse, right? Talking about bringing down the rhetoric and bringing down the tension from both sides. This is the problem right here. These people never, ever, ever criticize the president, and they never, ever admit that there's some form of wrongness on their side. They never, ever do it. It's so blatant. It's so obvious. This is political weaponization. It's so obvious.
Consideration for Carr, a conflict of interest for Carr, some sense of his position as a government official to make that kind of threat?
Since when is the FCC an attack dog for any political party?
Well, it has been against Howard Stern. It has been against others in the past, which I also object to. There is a slice out of our First Amendment for broadcast, which I think is wrong. And it's based on wrong decisions years and years ago about precious airwaves and about going into the home and so on and so forth. If we believe in the First Amendment, we believe in the First Amendment. And now we have this fascinating thing happening on the right where you have Ted Cruz defending hate speech because he doesn't want his speech taken off. And so where does free speech, is your question, Ebby, where is free speech here then? Where is that line? How do we know where that line is now?
Well, I think it's similar to the debate we've had this week beyond just this topic to people who said horrific, awful things after the assassination of Charlie Kirk last week. Now, I think it's awful, but they have a right to say that. But I also think employers have a right to say, not just in this instance, but in so many others we documented, if you say something that's inconsistent with the principles of our organization, be it a college, a business, a nonprofit, we don't want you on the clock.
But that is such a lie. It's not them having or willingly just doing it. It's clearly political pressure from the government, the FCC. Clearly, that's literally the reason why. They keep trying to make this about some professional business decision. This isn't a business decision, okay? There's been multiple sources that's come out and literally said these people had no problem with what he said until the FCC, which is the government department, started to get involved. It literally says it right here. In the hours leading up to the decision to put Jimmy Kimmel, two sources familiar with the matter say senior executives at ABC, its owner Disney and affiliates convened emergency meetings to figure out how to maximize the damage. Multiple executives felt that Kimmel had not actually said anything over the line, the two sources say, but the threat of Trump administration retaliation loomed. Clearly, the reason why they decided to pull him out wasn't because they felt like he was doing anything that was over the guidelines or policies of the company. It was clearly political weaponization from the government that made them make this decision. It's so obvious. I don't know why this is still the conversation.
Should take Brian Kilmeade off the air for what he said about homeless people.
I think in all those cases, they have a right to do that. Whether
you think they should? I'm asking for your judgment. You talked about a critic before. You're a critic now. Do you think Fox should fire
I
Brian
didn't say that they had to take
Kilmeade?
Jimmy Kimmel off. I said they have a right to. In each of these cases,
Do you think they should at Fox?
I'm telling you, they have a right to. That's what I'm talking
But you're
about.
also, you continue.
He won't answer it. Of course he won't answer it. Publicly saying on Fox News that people that are homeless should be killed and they should get lethal injection. Do you think that is with the policy of Fox News? There's no way that you can possibly say yes to that. That there is no policy that can ever support actively telling people to go kill a group of people live on big Fox TV. Never. But they won't say anything about it. If it was a Democratic person or Democratic representative that said that, they will come out, oh my God, this is inciting violence. And also, unfortunately, there was actually some violence that happened after that. 2 homeless people. So now these people, they just never ever come out and actually admit fault on their side. That's just the problem. But they're still making this seem like a business decision. This wasn't a business decision. This was governmental pressure from the government that led to this firing. It's so obvious.
You to talk about how it's a business decision, but the reality is that whether it is a threat, whether it is Donald Trump also threatening to go after organizations just because they have different views than him, he is threatening to go after the far left. All of these aren't business decisions. This is the federal government that is using their power in order to silence the media and people that disagree with them. And that is what is alarming.
So there was some reporting tonight that Kimmel was going to address this on his show tonight, but rather than allow this company to handle this the way that maybe they saw fit, maybe he might have apologized. They decided to go this route. And I have to believe, I guess, because it's in part because Trump, you read one of the tweets, but here's what he said on August 6th after Colbert was taken off the air or his show was canceled. Here's what he said in terms of his order of operations here. Let's play the soundbite from Trump.
Would you look at that? So he always had it in it for him. He always did. It was just a matter of time. He was just waiting for something to actually say, to actually force it. He always had it in his mind. But conservatives will still think this is a business decision that had nothing to do with Trump. What a stupid bunch of people.
Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but I would imagine because they'd get, Colbert has better ratings than Kimmel or Fallon.
Okay, let's just take a moment and let's pretend that Donald Trump is not the president. Let's pretend that it's somebody else. And that person says, I don't like this person. I don't like that person. They're going to be gone next because I want them gone. I think the question that we have to ask ourselves in this moment is if you took the partisanship out of it right now, would you be comfortable with a president of the United States saying to any private corporation, television network, cable broadcast, that this is how they have to program their TV in terms of who is on and who is not?
I don't have a problem with the president expressing an opinion about people who express opinions about him. And regarding Kimmel, whether he was going to address it or not, I read that he was going to address it, but that he wasn't going to apologize, which I am sure was going to make Sinclair and Nexstar go crazy.
But what about Trump using the government to enforce it? Because it's not just his words. He is also using the government to enforce his words.
Well, it is your opinion that they were threatening them. It is my opinion that they had a larger decision to make regarding their business interests.
Twice now. It is not my opinion that Brendan Carr said, you can either do this or I will do that. That's what he said. That's not my opinion. That's a fact.
Look, my view is all these companies have business decisions to make that are based on more than just what a singular person said in an interview. They've got affiliates to deal with. They've got advertisers to deal with.
Oh my God, bro. These people are unbelievable. Unbelievable. He obviously doesn't believe that. He's just saying it so they can find a way out. He obviously doesn't believe that.
I promise
why
you
not let them deal
that
with
when
it?
Jimmy
Why
Kimmel
do you
does
have
what
to
he
bring
does.
the FCC into it?
Well, look, he gave an interview. I can't tell you that if I were the head of the FCC, I would have given that interview. It sounded a little over the top to me, but I still believe that what's going on here has more to do with their business than it does with the government.
President
Then why won't you guys denounce it? That's the thing. Why won't you say what the FCC, what they did is wrong? I mean, I think that's the problem. It was a threat from the administration, and I understand the business dealing 100%. Just like the first ABC settlement, I truly believe that they were looking at it. It was a business deal. It was a business decision there, and that's why they moved forward with that. But when it comes to an actual threat from the federal government, that's wrong. It is wrong for our government to threaten these organizations when they have the power to approve mergers.
They didn't have to do this. They looked at all of the factors and said, okay, it's time for us to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air. I think there's more going on.
Because they would have lost so much money. Like, the pressure from the government would have been so much. It would have literally ruined it. All they had to do was either take the hit on their whole company and profits, or just fire one person. Of course, they're going to take the easy way out. Of course, they would. This is it's acting like a baby right now, like a little child.
Than just Brendan Carr's interview. All the time, the president criticizes media outlets who then go out and continue to do what he hates it.
Then he sues them.
Saying that he
for
hates.
$15 billion.
And what's going to happen? Nothing. What's going to happen?
This is an attempt to intimidate the New York Times. And you've heard me on this show. I'm not crazy about the New York Times coverage right now.
I mean,
but they're
listen.
trying to intimidate them. The same thing with ABC. The same thing with CBS. This is the power of the government brought down on speech, on the press.
Maybe it's just the power of someone in the government forcing a little self-reflection in these media companies for what they've been doing and the way they've been operating.
Free speech or not?
Of course I do.
Yeah, but
You don't. That's a lie. You don't. You don't believe in free speech, okay? These people always scream free speech, free speech, free speech. These people don't believe in free speech. They only want what they believe in. And if you don't go along with that, you don't get free speech.
We have to tie our hands and never fight back. All of us who've been attacked for
so let Jimmy Kimmel fight back.
So now it's about fighting back. Do you
Yes,
believe
I think when he speaks out, when he says these people are bad and disgusting and they're
not,
I totally agree with that. But I don't believe that means an elected official like myself or others can say, no, just go ahead and talk. I'm not going to push back on you.
Do you understand that the threat of the president suing you for saying things that they don't like, and the threat of the government preventing you from conducting businesses.
Well, the reason the president won in the past when he was a candidate was because of actions that they took were contradictory to what they actually reported.
So when Elon Musk was spreading lies about, well, all kinds of things, but let's just put on the table the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, and he was spreading falsehoods about claiming that there was some kind of illicit relationship, completely false stuff. If the government had dropped the hammer on Elon Musk, you would have been fine with that?
No, I'd say
why can't we be intellectually honest and apply the same principles across the board? Why do we have to create
because you're saying if the government did something, I'm saying they did. They made a decision today that they announced that.
It's amazing how you're acting how Trump is powerless.
This isn't like a one-time thing, by the way. Okay, this is a process. Okay, after the unfortunate assassination of Charlie Kirk, the president, explicitly said it. He is going to go after the radical leftists, okay, that's infecting and killing the United States, okay, that's this country, okay. He's explicitly said this, okay. So this isn't a surprise. This is just one step, okay. Also, there are reports that he's trying to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization, okay. Anything that supports a leftist group or leftist idea, he's going against them. This is the one-time thing. He's going up against them and trying to act like he isn't deliberately doing this. It's just delusional. And this is one of the reasons why there isn't a middle ground. Because these people never admit fault or admit any part in like creating the tension. They never do. They just keep going on and on and on and on. And they always support the president no matter what he does. This is the problem. This is why there is a big divide. It's literally therefore anyone, any impartial observer can literally say, but that's just my thoughts. If you're new around here, it will be massively appreciated if you drop a like on the video and also subscribe.